man called? This is great. It's in front of Trafalgar Square, so we'll walk around there in a moment and see it. This area was the King's Mews, so this is where they used to have their royal stables, their royal falconry, for St James's Palace a little bit further up. Westminster's not that old, like I was explaining. It's only about 1,000 years old. Yeah, which is probably old for you guys, but for us it's like last week. Right. But you have to remember the Romans 2,000 years ago, they came over, they raped, they pillaged, they murdered. It wasn't fantastic. But if it wasn't for the Romans, we wouldn't have what we got today. Have you ever seen a Monty Python's Life of Brian? And they list everything off? What did the Romans ever do for us? You can put London on that list. They invaded by coming from the south of the coast, working their way up, they hit the River Thames. They got to get over the River Thames to then invade the rest of the country. The Scottish knew they were coming, so they hid in the hills and then they built a huge wall. We celebrate sporting events like not winning the World Cup, not winning the rugby, not winning the cricket, not doing very well at the Olympics. We also celebrate NFL. They've been up here a few times because they've been going to Wembley quite a lot. We celebrate absolutely everything. I had an American lady once who said, "You celebrate everything here?" I was like, "Yeah." She went, "Do you celebrate Independence Day?" And I looked at her and I went, "Oh, God. No!" And she was like, "Why not?" I went, "Because we lost. Why would we celebrate that?" She also said, "I think the Americans love the royal family so much because we wish that we had our own." I turned around and said, "Well, you could have had ours, but you decided not to. That was your choice." Saying that, you can't see it, but behind this sort of barrier where the lion is, there is a statue of George Washington. When we got that as a gift from the state of Virginia in the 1920s, we covered him up, yeah. We covered him up. That's going to stay there forever. It was quite interesting because one of his famous quotes was, "I never want to step on English soil." So when they brought the statue over in the 1920s, you guys brought with you American soil. So when the statue was put on the ground, it was on American land, not British or English land. So that's something quirky you've done. The only thing is we're British, right? So not only do we come here and celebrate certain events, we used to come here to protest. Not anymore, the laws have changed. But we come up here to protest. The only issue is that being British, those protests usually get out of hand, and we have riots. It gets a little bit violent.
Lots of beer.
Yeah. So the idea is that people would come up here. There had to be a policeman here at all times to make sure nothing got out of hand. They say Trafalgar Square is famous because it has the smallest police station in the country at Trafalgar Square. But there's something else that we do. Do you know how we got rid of them? The pigeons. I'm just having a look around because I think it might be here today, but.
Yeah, how do you get rid of the birds? That's
well, it's what we do at Wembley. We do it at Wembley and we do it at Heathrow. Yeah. Birds of prey. So there's a man that comes down every morning with his kestrels and he just lets them fly around the whole of Trafalgar Square. And all of them just scarper. All of them just disappear. That is the safe house in Spectre, where Daniel Craig's already in the safe house and Ralph Fiennes, M, comes in and meets him. So that's the scene where James Bond is at the bottom and his Bond girl say goodbye, kiss, that's me reenacting it, kissing, and then they walk, and then they walk off in different directions. The only thing is it's a dead end. So there's that awkward moment where she's walking down there going, bye-bye, Bond, see you later. And then she walks down there, and then there's that awkward moment going, oh, it's a dead end, I'll walk back. In the film, it's not meant to be a dead end, but right here it is. So that's the safe house. But yeah, this is Admiralty Arch. So the area beyond this is the royal area. Westminster is famous for two things, politics and royalty. They're right next door to each other, which makes no sense because they never got on, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But this area here is one of the gateways into the royal area, Admiralty Arch. There's many of them all the way round. It's fantastic, isn't it? Through history itself, we wouldn't have been allowed to go into the royal area, but through time, over the past century or two, we have been able to walk into the grounds of this area itself. And when the guards go on their horses through the arch, they rub it for good luck. A great story. It's not true. It was actually put up by a street artist in the 1990s. He was protesting against CCTV cameras in London. So as an experiment, he took a cast of his own nose 50 times and stuck them on buildings of importance to see how long they would last. Now, most of them have been taken down. Only 7 of them still exist. We call them the 7 Noses of Soho because most of them are in the Soho area. This is the furthest one out. A new legend has begun that if you find all 7 Noses of Soho, it will bring you wealth for the rest of your life. Now, I tried this once. It took me 3 hours and I found 1. So if you're going to do it in your own time, not right now. Why is it still there? Who knows? Who knows?
Oh, got it.
Well, I'll ask you the question. Do you know what Big Ben is?
It's a clock.
No, it's actually the bell on the inside. The bell inside is called Big Ben.
Like Notre
there is a crack down the side of the bell, and that's what gives it the unique twang that we're known for. You also have a bell with a crack down the side of it, which is in which city? Philadelphia. Just to let you know, those 2 bells were made at the same bell foundry in Whitechapel, East London, and it's still it's one of the longest reigning companies still going, really. They're not very good at making bells. That's why that's why I put it down. Just to let you know, before the Houses of Parliament, what used to stand here was a palace. We called it Westminster Palace. Edward the Confessor in the 1050s, 1060s, he wanted to build a palace outside the city walls. You have to remember the Romans 2,000 years ago, when they set up the City of London, they put a huge wall around the City of London. Anything that ends in gate was a gate going in and out, so Aldersgate or Aldgate, Moorgate, Bishopsgate. So this area would have been countryside. This area in particular was called Thorney Island. It was a marshland, which we're paying for now because the Houses of Parliament are actually sinking into the Thames. Over the next 30 years, we're going to be spending £7 billion to stop it from falling into the Thames. Big Ben is actually our Leaning Tower of Pisa, technically, because it is slightly leaning to one side. So it is, it's rather odd. So we are spending money on it. This bit here is the only part left of the old palace that once stood here. It's not the original, it dates back to the 1300s. But this was called the Jewel Tower because this is where, through history, the crown jewels would have been kept before the Tower of London. View. It's a great image with the tower in front, isn't it?
London. Inside.
Old and new.
So amazing.
Anne Boleyn.
I I call it the safari park because through history, royalty from other countries would have given exotic animals to the royal family of that time. So there's been elephants, giraffes, antelopes, zebras in this area. That's why it's called Birdcage Walk. On this side there would have been exotic birds in cages on this side. Interestingly, the animal that's still been bred through history that's still here are the pelicans, and that's what it's famous for. They were given to us by the Russians in the 1600s. What's interesting, in the 70s and 80s, they actually died, some of them were dying of a disease. So we actually rang up Russia and asked for some more pelicans. Now remember, this is a time when we didn't really get on with Russia. You know, we're still having trouble today. So just imagine that phone call of, "Hi Russia, yeah, I know that we don't really get on, but can we have some more pelicans?" Oh, we can. Oh, thanks. Just to let you know, these pelicans, there's no fences, there's no cage. They could fly off whenever they want to, but they don't. They stay in the royal area and where the government run the country.
The horse is gorgeous.
Adele was at the O2. Straight after Adele was Mariah Carey. And she didn't go down well with the British.
Why do they need a police force?
Yeah, I know.
It's almost funny that they need so many guards.
The spire was made out of lead, and that's what it's down for. When the Great Fire in London hit in 1666, it wiped out 80% of the city of London. I mean, it was a stone building. People thought they'd be safe, so they ran into the building. The lead melted because of the heat, went into the cracks of the building, and they say the building literally exploded. Thomas Fariner was the reason why the Great Fire of London. 1:05 in the morning, he didn't put his ovens out properly. 1:05 in the morning, a spark came out of his ovens. He was a baker, by the way, not the same baker, and it wiped out 80%. 2nd of September, 1666. Slight breeze, dry, went from one thatched roof to the next. After the Great Fire, tiles started to come in more than wood and thatched. There's only one building that has a thatched roof in the whole of London, that's the Globe Theatre, although it has a sprinkler system, so just to make sure.
Churchill had been one of the prime movers in Britain adopting the tank, or land ships as they were known. Churchill pursued this interest right the way through the 1920s and 30s. In 1944, when they went to inspect General Eisenhower's headquarters before D-Day, General Smuts of South Africa picked up a model of the Churchill tank and said, "What's this one, Winston?" And Winston said, "That's the one they named after me when they found out it was no bloody good."
That I thought it improbable that the enemy's air attack in September could be more than 3 times as great as it was in August. I was not, of course, referring to barbarous attacks from the civil population. These cruel, wanton, indiscriminate bombing of London are, of course, a part of Hitler's invasion plan.
People who go to Italy to look at ruins won't have to go as far as Naples and Pompeii in future.
I neither drink nor smoke, and I'm 100% fit.
I both drink and smoke, and I'm 200%.
Oh my
If you look to your
God,
right, then you see London Bridge just in the distance. It's not the most attractive bridge,
No,
but it's the one with the most history in that area.
London Bridge.
So yeah, basically,
It's
we
actually a
signed-
mundane.
Yeah, it's pretty vanilla.
Yeah, I mean it was built in the 50s and 60s. It was
That
they
was-
built it more
that
for
was just concrete jungle.
Yeah, it's more for practical reasons. But yeah, you're not allowed to
Well,
go
you're not going to
faster.
compete against this bridge
No,
anyway.
no.
so-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna
Oh,
be
look
difficult.
at the ship. It must
That's
be-
HMS Belfast. That's the only warship that was used in World War II that's still in the water in Europe.
Oh.
If you were to fire a shell from the guns, which is on the other side of the ship, which is the front, they would travel 12.5 miles. And the angle they're pointing in, they would hit Scratchwood service stations on the M1. So
that's a fun fact.
it is. It's a good one, isn't it? And you'll see to the right, on the north side of the river, you'll see the high-rise buildings.
Yeah.
So that's the walkie-talkie. So if you're looking for a place,
Looks like an
one, that
AT&T.
one?
yeah, it looks
in,
it looks like a
Nashville.
big loaf of bread phone.
Oh, yeah.
You can go to if you talk to concierge at Savoy, they can book you in, and you
You're self-taught? Can you teach me how to be self-taught?
The only lesson I can give you is just to listen. That's the best advice.
Do you play here a lot? Do you like this, the fact that you can come
In my
in?
spare time, yeah, I do.
Are you on your way home?
No, I'm on the way to work.
On the way to work?
I'm actually up in the piano. I play in the hotel.
Oh, up here?
It's in Lancaster Gate.
Oh, okay, Lancaster Gate. I've been through there.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
What's your name?
I'm Patrick.
Patrick?
Yeah.
You have a last name?
Yeah. Clothon, what's your name?
Jimmy Young, believe it or not.
Where are you from?
I'm from Boston.
Oh, cool. So you must know Jamiroquai.
If it's not the 60s or 70s, pal, I don't know it exists.
Oh, okay.
So who's your favorite artist besides, we said Oscar Peterson, so who else?
Do you know there's a lady called Hiromi Uehara? She's from Japan. And she studied in Boston, actually.
Berkeley?
I'm not sure
Must be.
where.
If she went to school for music, it's Berkeley.
Okay, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so this is my favourite. One of my favourites.
You ever hear Brent Midland? You ever hear the Grateful Dead?
Grateful Dead?
Yes. I am in a foreign country, right?
Grateful Dead.
So that's why, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why.
One of the most famous rock bands from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's a cult band. And they had a keyboardist named Brent Midland. I got to hang out with him one night.
What's their most famous song?
Probably either Truckin' or Uncle John's Band, Sugar Magnolia, Touch of Grey. It's one of their only popular songs. I mean, we're talking about 60s, 70s. You read about this music in your history books.
Okay.
If you studied the history of American music, right?
I didn't.
interestingly, this church behind us, St Margaret's Church, Sir Walter Raleigh is buried in here. You may have heard of Sir Walter Raleigh, North Carolina. I believe the capital is Raleigh. You have to remember, to us, he was a great explorer. To the rest of the world, he was a pirate. The Spanish didn't like him, neither did the Portuguese. But he founded Virginia, named after the Virgin Queen. I love it though, because he was eventually executed. He had his head chopped off. I'll talk about execution a little bit later. But what was great about it he was known for ordering people about. He felt that his executioner was taking too long to chop off his own head. So his last words are, "Strike, man, strike." They were his last words. His wife loved him so much that when his head was chopped off, she picked it up, put it in a velvet sack, and for the rest of her life, she walked around with his head in a sack. So, royalty from other countries would have given exotic animals to the royal family of that time. So there's been elephants, giraffes, antelopes, zebras in this area. That's why it's called Birdcage Walk. On this side there would have been exotic birds in cages on this side. Interestingly, the animal that's still been bred through history that's still here are the pelicans, and that's what it's famous for. They were given to us by the Russians in the 1600s. What's interesting, in the 70s and 80s, they actually died, some of them were dying of a disease. So we actually rang up Russia and asked for some more pelicans. Now remember, this is a time when we didn't really get on with Russia. We're still having trouble today. So just imagine that phone call of, "Hi Russia, yeah, I know that we don't really get on, but can we have some more pelican?" You go in, just to let you know, there is a beer here that is brewed only for this pub. It's called the George. So if you fancy something a little bit different, ask for a pint of George. Also as well, there's two different sections. You've got the Parliament bar down here. It's a little bit dark and dingy, how it would have been back in the day. Whereas this is the main bar down here. However, upstairs, they've got a sit-down restaurant. So it depends what you want to do. If you go upstairs, you've got service, okay? But if you go downstairs, then you get your own food at the bar, so no frills. So it gives you both options, really.
The generic football song would be, "We're the famous Tottenham Hotspur and we're going to Wembley, Wembley, Wembley. We're the famous Tottenham Hotspur and we're going to Wembley, Wembley." That's the generic one, but we have our own one, which is, "Spurs are on their way to Wembley. The Kings are claiming the throne. They can't stop 'em, the boys from Tottenham, the boys from White Hart Lane. Oh, Spurs are on their way to Wembley. Tottenham's gonna do it again. They can't stop 'em, the boys from Tottenham, the boys from White Hart Lane. And it goes on.